Welcome to Stay Sparked. On this show, we explore how to stay inspired in the modern world through the most profound lessons from Burning Man, relationships, entrepreneurship, psychedelics, spirituality, travel, and more.
On today's episode, we talked about habits, making good habits, how habits guide our lives, and whether we like it or not, we are following habits.
We talk about how to rewire old habits and turn them into new habits.
And how to become your biggest cheerleader and advocate so that if you happen to fall off the good habit train, you can get back on with minimal muss and fuss. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Stay Sparked. We are three friends here to share conversations aimed to inspire and light you up. Thank you so much for listening. If you've been enjoying these conversations, we absolutely appreciate you leaving us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. And please share the links to spread the sparks of inspiration. I'm Betsy.
I'm Halcyon.
And I am Janus.
I am a holistic healing arts practitioner in Southern California, and I also have a project called Power Affirmation, which is a journal and an online platform to help cultivate skills for sustainable happiness.
I am a love ambassador and authenticity doula, helping people find their way through live broadcasts and coaching, t-shirts, and more.
And I am the founder and CEO of NuWorld Nutritionals, a nutritional supplement company with mushroom-based products, all designed to improve your state of mind.
So grateful to be here with you guys. Today, we are going to start off with some gratitude as always. So how about Janus? What are you grateful for today?
I am grateful today and all days for our garden here at our house. We have a pretty abundant garden that my landmates and I, mostly my landmates, tend to apply their green thumbs to and cultivate. And so every meal that we eat, we can pretty much go out there and get herbs and lettuce and greens and tomatoes, and depending on the time of year, like peppers and spices. We even have lemongrass out there, and and we've got a new herb garden, so we got a few different herbs going on, and it's really nice. And I definitely am thankful every time I go out there and harvest a little bit, or my partner goes out there and comes back with a fistful of like good stuff to add to a meal. It's we're eating pretty good these days when we make food at home, so it's nice to have access to that garden, because it's, in the heart of the city, not many people have access to that. So I'm really feeling pretty grateful and blessed to have that.
There's such a cool addition of energy when you know that it is coming from the land and you witness it and you harvest it. I got to make a meal off the land. I'll jump in with my gratitude because I'm grateful for some physical time. I got to spend physical connection the last 2 weeks since we've been together, both in Hawaii and in Santa Cruz, both gatherings of human beings. And in one of the places, got to make food off the land with some duck eggs and some kale that was growing. And I was surprised how much joy and energetic, like, wow, like this, there was no intermediary grocery store. There was no trucks, there was no gas. It was just land to my gut. And I was like, wow, this feels awesome. And in addition to that, I want just that my gratitude is for the reminder of how important physical space sharing with fellow humans is. And while I love connecting with you two in this digital way, it is different when you're in physical space and you're feeling someone's energy and you're the eye contact, in close proximity, and not even, more so even than the hugs, just the energetic feeling when you're next to someone and sharing deep emotions. It was a beautiful reminder, and I'm so grateful that I had the opportunities to have those.
Nice.
Amazing. I am just filled up with so many sparks of gratitude. Which one do I share? Both are inspiring me. So I'm going to share two, actually.
Yeah.
So for our garden, we actually have roses blooming, really fragrant, very, very full and fragrant roses blooming. So that is definitely lighting me up every day. And I'll also share my gratitude for quality time with friends as well. I just got back from a few weeks in my other home, my home away from home in Asheville, and got to have some really lengthy amounts of quality time. Whereas, often when I visit with friends, it might be an hour here, a dinner there, a hike there. But since I was traveling, I actually got to spend, a couple of nights with many different friends, and having that really length of time with somebody where you can have a dinner and then get to talk afterwards and go for walks and then have coffee in the morning. It's like, wow, that really brought such a deep level of intimacy and connection. And I got to, see people in their elements and have sort of a peek into my friends' lives, which felt really nourishing and really absolutely inspiring. And I'm just really grateful for the people in my life.
Nice.
Yay.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So, and it's cool too, especially if hope I'm not giving away anything, but it's, if it's something, if it's when we're considering moving to a place, it it helps to be able to spend time and like feel what the daily flow is there. Like it's like, oh, so this is how it might be with like my friends, or just like, dropping in for coffee or hanging out for, a lengthy day and stuff like that. So it's good to kind of have that insight into a place before you get there.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll actually weave in a little piece of our topic today, getting to be witness to some people in my lives, their habits,
Mm.
like getting to stay with somebody in their home. You start to see what their natural habitat is like, how they do life, and these different things that, either bring inspiration or maybe a little like contrast, right? So today we actually wanted to share about habits and what are our healthy habits, what are our unhealthy habits, how do we change habits. And this is a really important conversation because our habits really make up who we are and how we do life. And so much to unpack in this conversation. I'm excited to hear what comes through this conversation with you guys. And so I think I'm feeling inspired to kind of spark us off.
Sure.
If you guys are okay with that.
Go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So one of the things that I find really fascinating is how do we maintain healthy habits when we're on the go or when we're out of our natural environment, right? I just got back from a few weeks. Halcyon, you just got back from a few weeks away. Janus, I think you're about to go traveling. When we're at home, it's one thing to maintain, whether that's a meditation habit, practice, hydration. So Halcyon, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. I mean, it's interesting because I didn't do it consciously, but what I ended up doing was kind of establishing which are the habits that are my absolute no break, no compromise habits, and which are the things like, yeah, I'm in a different space, and so I'm going to allow myself to have different habits. So I did not maintain my morning routine that I do at home. I did not have the consistency of time zone or a sleep pattern, and so I did not keep up with my morning habit and my morning routine. Uh, to the point where I started to crave, a little bit of consistency so I could get back into it, because it has provided me so much grounding. But there were certain things that, like, certain eating habits or not drinking habits that I have, which are just absolutely no amount of new environment was going to let me change that. Um, I tried to do, like, I've got a habit of push-ups. I didn't do it with the same enthusiasm or consistency, but I tried to make sure that I could keep it up enough so that it stayed a part of who I was. But also, I think that a part of, for me at least, was trying to find that sweet spot of how much do I want to let go, since I am in a new environment. Am I allowed to be somebody different in this environment? And generally, my attitude was, yes, I can let myself sink into this experience. I can eat a little differently. And some of that is because I'm surrounded by people, as you mentioned, that have habits that I appreciated. So I could let go of my own habits and kind of let the flow work, and trust that as long as I kept hard and solid to the ones that were, no compromise ones for me, I could trust that it would all work out.
Cool. Yeah. Um, Yeah, and speaking of that, it's for me the idea of, like maintaining habits, despite like our environment and such. For me, I've got like categories of habits, and like my number one, like you could almost maybe even call it like a pyramid. Like my top concern of importance for me, especially as it's kind of always been this way, I will say, but definitely as I've gotten older, been made aware of. It kind of comes down to my habits around my health, my physical health, my mental health. Because if I'm not right in that area, it permeates throughout my life, and I think that's kind of true for everybody. So the habits I really strongly am focused on maintaining are the ones pertaining to, you know, my physical health, trying to stay active and trying to pay attention to what I'm putting in my body, and then mental health, which, you know, entails like habits I can feel good about doing, like, keeping like the habit of keeping my place clean, or the habit of just, making sure that, my all my stuff is in working order, and I'm connecting with my friends. Like, doing this podcast has been a habit that we have cultivated this year, the beginning of this year, and the fact that we're doing it like every week for I mean, for most of this year, and it's been a great way to start the week for me. And so it feels like a productive habit. It's an endeavor, but it's also like a habit, because it definitely, my life is kind of, my day is based around that, or starting this off in my week. So there's like a hierarchy of habits for me, and that's so those two things, my health, overall health, is at the top of that.
I absolutely relate to that. Yep. And also what you said around morning practice too. My morning practice and my healthy habits really do impact the rest of my life. And so coming off of, being away for 3 weeks and not being in my natural environment and just being able to compromise certain habits that I'm used to, I'm really grateful because I found a couple of practices that helped me to stay on track with those habits that keep me healthy. Because the old me would just totally bypass all of my healthy habits or my practices that I was aspiring to do, because they weren't really solid habits back then. And then I would come home from a trip and I would feel exhausted and I would get sick and I would, need all this time to recover. And now I've gotten to a place where some of these simple things, like the one of my favorite habits that has taken some time to really get in there, is something it doesn't really waver, is a morning tonic of some kind, whether that is lemon and apple cider vinegar, or GSE, which is grapefruit seed extract. That one's really great for the morning, and mix in some water, or I'll do like chlorophyll drops. And so I brought those with me on my trip. And I did it almost every single morning, which was really felt so good and so simple. And I'm feeling great. I feel healthy. I feel energized. And when we're moving and going, sometimes it's a lot of output. And so taking care of health is first and foremost. And so, yeah, finding for me, especially to the like, that's the first thing I think of when I get up in the morning. Okay, hydrate. Because, sometimes it's like, oh, coffee. Wait a second. Let me balance my pH first,
Mhm.
get my body hydrated, and then I can have some coffee. I'm really grateful for that habit that has taken a long time to get to be just anchored in there.
Mhm.
I used to be so um, adverse to the idea of habits. It felt like the whole concept of habits was how to like regiment your life to make things happen. Like I'm not going to join the army and just like be a robot. I just had this kind of feeling that's how I associated forcing myself to do things. And as I've grown and recognized that you have habits whether you intentionally set them or not. So
Mhm.
um, and so the younger version of my like float more, steer less, allow things to happen has kind of matured into a recognition that there's different voices in me and different motivations inside me, and that if I just listen to the what feels right in the moment, then I am denying the higher wisdom of myself. Like I try to visualize or imagine the feeling of the right now me and what it wants, which is like my ego, and the higher version of myself, my super ego, and that I need to tune in and let my super ego establish what the habits that I want to be doing, so that my right now me ego can't decide. Because in the morning, guess what right now me wants to do? Keep sleeping. Guess what right now me wants to do? Not meditate. Right now me wants to, does not want to go for a walk every morning. And so I have to kind of bow to higher me and recognize that habits actually are, even though it feels like a form of constriction or a impeding of the freedom to do whatever I want, it is actually through that discipline that I get to access the true freedom of being the person that I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and that touches on, the idea of like, okay, so who do I want to be? And this is an idea that came to me late last year, that I've been incorporating, and it does work. And it's important to find like whatever practice like works for us in order to establish, positive habits, healthy habits, in all areas of our life. So I would like to hear what everybody has to say about this. Halsey, you just shared a little bit of that just now, but what a question for myself that I've asked is, okay, it goes back to the idea of the four agreements, one of them being always do your best, with the realization that our best is going to change from day to day. But so the question for myself is, what would the best version of me do right now? What would the best version of, how does the best version of me start their day? How does the person I'm striving to become or I want to be, what does that person eat for lunch? What time does that person go to bed? All this, a whole list of questions. And, kind of even writing that out and being like, okay, so the person I want to be does this. And it was easy for me to be like, once I had that list kind of in front of me, it's like, oh, I can do that. And it felt natural. It felt good for me to be like, oh yeah, the person I want to be goes to bed at this time of day. It's like, all right, and do that. And to see yourself kind of living and becoming like that version of yourself, it just kind of inspired me to keep it going. So that's one practice that I've been able to do to really kind of sink some of these like positive habits in. And there's always room for improvement, and there's always ebb and flow with that. But it feels good to be moving on that track and being the person. Like, it's not some far off thing. This person I want to be is like some far off goal. It's like, no, I can actually be that person today. Just embody that, and it's been a good practice for me this year.
I love that so much. Yes,
Yeah.
so true. I know the question that kind of moves through me that is similar to that is, who do I need to be in order to become, right? Whatever it might be, right? And then also just in the contemplation around, what are some habits that some of my role models embody, right? What are the healthy habits of CEOs? Or what are healthy habits of some of the most joyful people that I know, right? How can I start to get inspired by some of those simple things that make up the day-to-day of these types of people, right? Who do I want to be? All right. Is that somebody who is spending a lot of time scrolling? Probably not. Like, that doesn't actually contribute to who I want to be and who I'm becoming. And so using that as an inspiration to like just aspirations to grow and evolve and align and feel really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that idea of the person that you want to be as the motivator, I think, is so strong, and it can be really tempting to be motivated to be, moving away from the person you don't want to be, trying to, stop being unhealthy, as opposed to wanting to be the healthy version of yourself. I know for myself, I'm on this chapter right now where I have removed the habits of intoxication that have been a part of my life for many, many years. And, people have been asking me like, are you tempted, or is it been hard? And I'm like, well, not really. Like, I have written real big on my wall, what's at stake, and realizing my potential. And it's like, okay, if I go back to that, it's a really easy choice. But it goes back to habit. So like I have maybe an instinctive feeling, oh, sun is setting, this would be a nice time to have a cocktail or something like that. And go, oh, okay, but that's the feeling I'm having. That's the habit or the brain pathway that has been well worn, but it does not lead to the person that I want to be. And that the person I want to be there is no greater victory than becoming the person that you know is your potential. That is the ultimate adventure and journey of our lifetime. And we can go on side journeys, and there's nothing wrong. I don't feel guilt or shame about the other pathways and what I learned there. But if I look at what's at stake, it's a much easier decision and to make the new pathway.
I love that too. Yeah, I feel like what you spoke to is these associations that we have, right? Having that habit pattern that you created over many years of seeing the sunset and associating it to having a cocktail, right? Where some people maybe have an association to seeing the sunset and doing a sun salutation, right? A yogi, for example, or I know somebody who does a sunset meditation every single day, but he's been doing that for a long, long time, and it's an association, right? So how do we start to rewire our associations to certain things, right? One of the things I love playing with is habit stacking. To create new habits, which we've talked about this on many different episodes. The habit stacking is the concept from Atomic Habits, the book. And so it's basically seeing like, okay, say we'll use the sunset. If it is already a habit that you love watching the sunset, it's something that you do naturally. It's not something that you have to really try to get into your practice. It's already existing. Then tacking something on top of it that you want to start doing more of, right? And so if you're wanting to do more meditation, you're like, oh, sunset. Oh, okay, this is where I get to meditate, even just for a minute. And then you start to see it grow, right? Or for the work that I do with affirmations, I love teaching people how to start implementing affirmations and mindset work into already existing habits. So one of the women in my virtual group, she started doing affirmations while her coffee was brewing. She always is going to brew coffee, right? And so she put a little sticky note on her coffee maker to remind her to say her affirmations. And she'd sit there and coffee's brewing. I am love. I am loving. I am lovable. Everything is okay. I am safe, right? Whatever her affirmations were. And now she doesn't even have to put the sticky note on her coffee maker every time she goes to make coffee. It's in there. It's programmed. It's a reminder, whether that's making coffee or making your bed or doing these things, right? So we stack on certain things. That's really, I love that concept. I feel like it's worked in my life, and I've seen it work in so many people's lives.
I love that you said, even for just a minute. I think that's another thing that's really important too, that as I returned to my normal environment after traveling, this morning I was like, okay, morning walk, get the sunshine in my eyes. Well, and before I'd been traveling, I'd been jogging every morning, and I just was like, I'm not up for a jog today. I'm like, just walk. And at first I'm like, just walk a little bit. And then as I'm walking, I'm like, I'm just going to walk the normal distance that I jog. And then as I'm walking, I'm like, what, let's just jog on the way back. And so, by the time I got home, I'm like, okay, that was a lot more than I signed up for, but I wouldn't have done it if I said, you got to jog today, So it's giving yourself permission to do it a little bit.
Yeah. And it goes back to the idea of like 90% of success is just showing up.
Yeah.
Like there's been so many times where I'm either gone to yoga class or gone to work out. I absolutely do not want to do it. Like I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I just kind of talk myself, and I almost know that what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but I'm just like, just get to the gym. You can ride the bike for 10 minutes and then you can bounce if you really want to bounce, but just get there. And then those have been some like, of all the workouts I've had, I have memorable workouts where I just dragged myself to the gym and I'm like, all right, 10 minutes on the bike. That's all I'm going to do. And by the time 10 minutes, like, all right, I can do some crunches, you know what I'm saying? So I'll do some crunch. And then by the, I'm an hour and a half later, I've gotten a kick-ass workout and I'm just walking on sunshine coming out of the gym. And you just get there, just do that. And real quick, talking, you guys have both referred to, the idea of like putting affirmations around. It's really important trying to attempting to develop a positive habit or a productive habit. You have to address your environment, and sometimes that can look like affirmations on the on the coffee maker, and the idea of habit stacking is it doesn't necessarily have to be a positive habit. It just has to be something you can be aligned with, something that you just have to do. Like, for example, I think I maybe have mentioned this before, but I used to have sticky notes next to the cat box. And so, which has to be scooped like a couple times a day. And so I've gotten it to the point where that sticky note's not there anymore. But when I'm scooping, I automatically go to the thought of just a positive thought as I'm scooping poop out of this litter box. Everything's awesome, whatever the thought is. And it's like it's interesting how you can kind of program yourself with that. But so the sticky note thing, the affirmation thing, is a great way to change your environment. Another way that it can be a little more challenging, especially with house in on the being on the sober tip these days. You have to kind of look, it's the first rule of therapy. Like, before you decide that you're depressed, just make sure you're not hanging out with a bunch of jerks. First of all. So it's like, okay, so you might have to, so if somebody's looking to develop, okay, I need to drink less. Okay, you need to change your environment. Maybe don't go to the bars anymore. Go to the bars one day less. Or conversely, stop bringing alcohol home. So the only time you drink is when you're out. So it can look a lot of different ways to a lot of different people, but addressing your environment, because trying to create a new habit, positive habit, without making like a physical change in like your activity, like where you go or what your house looks like, it can be, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. So you have to definitely address your environment and, make sure that you're setting yourself up for success, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to be testing yourself constantly.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
like the thing about, if you like, one of my things I'm still struggling with is food and eating healthy. And occasionally I will just, eat to being way too full. And it's so, luckily I'm pretty good at keeping my house full of healthy foods. So when I binge to excess, it's on like walnuts and, almonds and, so I'm like, okay, well, I feel sick, but at least my body's like, that's too much of a good thing. But the thing that I'm aware of is that I can be on track 99.9% of the day and then I lose one battle with my will, and now I'm full of food. And so if during that one battle, if I had a bunch of chocolate around, I would have lost that battle with chocolate, And so the same is true with any environment, whether that is, the alcohol you have around or the bad food or, so anytime you can make it easier for yourself so that you can not have the battle, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how do we change the unhealthy habits, right? It's like, I think so far we've been talking about how to build and cultivate healthy habits. Also, how do we rewire? Getting rid of something like an addiction, for example, that can be very deeply embedded into our lives, and to rewire our neural pathways to start choosing different habits. It takes some time. It takes some effort. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about changing beliefs, and he uses this metaphor of when we are trying to forge a new path, it takes maybe pulling out that machete and cutting down this bush to be able to create a new path. Whereas this other path, we've been walking on over and over and over and over again. So our brain and our neuroplasticity, it makes it very easy to do these other things because they're strengthened, right? And to create the new path, it takes effort, it takes time, it takes commitment, it takes conviction, it takes reminders. It's a lot. And so, yeah, rewiring our lives, our brains, our practices, our habits to be able to choose differently and new things that will help us to thrive.
And I think that awareness can be super helpful when you're going to make the new decisions, because when you recognize that's the way the brain works, you can know that, oh, I already have a path that's beat in this direction. And you can go, whatever good choice I make today, I'm beating a path that is going to be easier tomorrow. So whatever effort I put in today to make the hard decision makes tomorrow's decision easier. So you're almost like investing in yourself. You're giving a gift to tomorrow you. So you know what? Hey, tomorrow you, I'm going to make tomorrow's jog easier by jogging today. So you're welcome.
Yes, I love that. I do that sometimes too. Like I like kind of pat myself on the back and say, "Hey, thanks, past self. You really set my presence up." And then I'm like, "Okay, think about, okay, I'm gonna like actually, here's a habit I've gotten into, clean my space before I go travel as a gift to my future self. So when
Totally.
I come home, it's like, oh, it feels so good." And they're like, oh yeah, okay, setting ourselves up for success. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and the thing I do around that is to make sure like all the dishes in the sink are clean before I go to sleep. Or just whatever mess has been made in the house, clean it up, or at least like make sure everything's kind of in its place.
Yeah.
And when I wake up in the morning, it's just, I barely even notice it sometimes. I mean, sometimes I really notice it. I more notice it when I don't do that. And so I
Mhm.
wake up and just like, oh, it's like, now I gotta like do dishes, or now I gotta like whatever. So, but that's rare because I have a habit of taking care of all that stuff before I'm done for the day, before I go down for the night. So, and regarding, what you're like saying with Dr. Joe Dispenza, it can kind of sound like a lot, but the idea is just we have to, in order for you to create like a new habit, you've got to do something like you got to make a change. You got to do something different in order to establish a new way of thinking. You have to essentially, it's called a pattern interrupt. You've got to break the pattern. So if you're not, so in order to like say, create any kind of new habit, doing something different, and it can be as simple as walking around the block,
Mhm.
or trying a new food, like something. You have to introduce something new into your experience, and that will help you. It can be something unrelated to the habit, but just doing something new allows your brain to start thinking about something different, or thinking about the same things in a different way. Introducing something new into your life is a sure way to kind of be like, okay, so now I can try this other unrelated habit, but you're essentially breaking your patterns. Introducing something new into your life will help that.
Yeah, breaking the habit of being yourself is the title.
Yes,
Yeah, it's the title
yes.
of Joe Dispenza's book. So
Okay.
fascinating. It's so true.
Mm.
Continuously reinventing ourselves. I feel like that's something I'm dedicated to and devoted to, even through like changing habits of clothing that I choose to
Mm-hmm.
wear. Right? If I get into a habit of wearing like yoga pants all the time, then I start to notice that I'm like kind of locking myself into this identity. And so then I go, okay, I'm going to start a new habit of wearing more flowy pants. Then I'm like, oh, that feels like a nice way to walk differently, to move differently, to feel differently. These subtle shifts to make our lives change and feel like that there is this evolution at hand and not getting locked into believing that I'm, always going to be in the same way.
This is so significant. I think, especially as we start to grow older, you get deeper and deeper into the patterns that your brain has been doing things. And something that I just became aware of very recently is how much more risk adverse I am and how much more attached to comfort I am.
Mm.
And I look back at like, if I was given the opportunity to go to Burning Man this year for the first time, I would probably say no. And I'm like, holy crap, what has happened to me in the last 25 years? And like, oh, well, I have developed these patterns. I have attachments to what I know and what is comfortable. And, intellectually, what all growth is on the other side of your comfort zone. But you really have to actively be aware of that you are in a groove and actively change your clothing, change your habits, pattern interrupt. And I think it's really helpful to know what's going on in your brain, to know that you're fighting the tide and you're fighting against that groove, so that when you're making new habits, you can kind of root yourself on and use whatever techniques and tactics and sticky notes and accountability, whatever you can, to go, this is harder now than it was 10 years ago. This is going to be harder
Mm.
tomorrow. So let's charge.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's 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 a way to it's a way to frame our current perspective, like realizing like you are never going to be younger than you are today. You are never going to have, and it's true in many cases, like you're never going to have more energy than you have right now. Just that, getting older, and it's like there's like some inevitable kind of changes that you have to make. So it's easy to, like, I think we can all look back in our lives and at endeavors that we undertook that were awesome, that if we were told at the time like how much work it was going to be, we're like, oh, I would never have started that. I would never have undertaken that endeavor. But the vigor of youth will get you there. Like, I'm doing it. It's going to be awesome, and you can do that. And as you get older, you kind of know a little bit more going in how much work is going to be. So it's like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe I'm not that go person anymore. So it can be tricky to undertake that those incorporate some new habits into what Halton's saying. It's a fine line between a groove and a rut. So it's important to groove to me feels more positive, but sometimes we're in a rut and we can kind of tell ourselves we're in a groove, but it's like, no, it's like how empowering is this? How is this really like the best version of myself that I can be? And so it's super easy, and we don't shouldn't beat ourselves up for that. But the first step with anything is awareness. It's like, okay, this is not really serving me. It's not serving my partner. It's not serving the life, my life, the kind of experience I want to have in this world. So, all right, awareness is step one. Now, how do I do that?
I love the question that I have on a little sticky note that helps me a lot is there anything getting in the way of being the highest version of myself? And then that gives me an opportunity to take a look at how I'm doing life. And so one of the habits that I struggle with, that I think maybe a lot of people do, is the connection to the phone, especially before bed, because I have noticed that sometimes I'll just like grab my phone and I'll look through my photos from that day, or I'll check messages, or I'll go on Instagram, or I'll, do some things on the screen. And I know that that is not healthy for my brain. That blue light, or like just this, energy of being on the phone before bed. I know that's not something that supports my highest version of myself. And so I always working on different ways to kind of trick myself out of that habit. And one of the things that has been really helpful for me, and I'm hoping that this is starting to really create some new grooves. It's starting to. I just started putting an instrument next to my bed. It's a little hand piano. It's called a sansala or a kalimba. And something happens when we play an instrument in our brains, right? There's new ways of seeing things and feeling things. And so I put it right next to my bed, right by where my phone gets plugged in. So then that way I like go to get myself all ready for bed, and then I see the instrument there and I'm reminded, hey, like grab this instrument instead of the phone. And that's been helpful. I say I'm getting there. I'd say I'm, maybe 4 days a week been remembering to do that. And hopefully I'll be getting to more days a week. And sometimes I give myself a little leniency if I want to be on catching up on social media and that sort of thing before bed. And then also the same thing, I kind of trick myself in the morning as well. I put something next to my phone right before I go to bed. So that way it's not my tendency or habit to just grab the phone and jump right into messaging, jump right into emailing, check, like going into the news or the weather or whatever it is. Taking a moment to actually play my instrument, or I put an affirmation next to my phone, or I put something there to kind of like remind me, like, hey, don't grab your phone right away.
You both touched on not beating yourself up and having leniency. And I think that's a huge thing to remember too, that this idea of like self-observation without judgment is how you want to be moving through this. And there's no additional benefit to beating yourself up if you notice yourself doing something that you don't like. So you can just, I was practicing that this weekend. I bought some Reese's Pieces, and I bought a big one, because that would last me for several days, and then I ate it all at once, and and I started to go, man, what? And then I just went, wait, I ate a whole thing of Reese's Pieces. So now I know that's not what I want to do. And over time, the continual observation without judgment, I have faith that that will lead to better decisions. But feeling like I'm an idiot, I can't believe I fucking did that, is not going to motivate me to do better next time.
And then you're just swallowing guilt.
Yeah, and it goes that that I come back to the meditation practice. Begin again, begin again, begin again. All right, that's I'm having presence often is just fresh start right now. Oh, fresh start right now. So if I messed up yesterday, begin again now. Don't bring the judgment with you. Just begin again.
Yes, exactly. Because we want to just keep showing up to build these habits, right? Because if we get into a place of self-criticism, self-judgment, right? It's like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Then it's like I'm just not motivated to actually keep showing up in the best way. Compassion and consistency, and just start again, start again. Here we go. Here we grow. Just keep coming back to the intention of whatever that habit that is forming, and staying consistent, I think, is a really important part of it too.
And what you're both kind of speaking to is another habit worth cultivating. It's one of the, I believe, again, any positive habit around your health is paramount. But right alongside of that is the habit of being your biggest cheerleader, of being your biggest advocate. The idea, because really, as awesome and as this world is and our community is, the universe doesn't care what you do. It's like, okay, if you want to sit in the corner and like eat bonbons all night, that's fine. Nobody's going to judge you, because really nobody cares. So you have to be your biggest advocate. You have to be your biggest cheerleader. And when we slip, you have to be the person to be like, that's fine. You slipped. Tomorrow's another day. Begin again. And the idea that every day, every sunrise is another opportunity to begin again. It's like you could start over from that point. And having that belief and that mindset has helped me a lot in many ways throughout the years. So, and also the idea of conscious, how would I phrase this? Conscious, because I don't want to use the word failing, but conscious stumbling, shall we say. It's like knowing, like something I've done. It's funny that you mentioned Reese's Pieces. I have a thing about Reese's peanut butter cups. And so there has been times where I will be like, if I'm shopping or whatever, it's like, I'm going to get those Reese's peanut butter cups and I'm going to eat them, and it's going to be awesome. So that way, but I'm mindful about it. I'm conscious about it. So I do it. And then it kind of satisfies that craving before I even really had it, before like the craving is like driving my behavior. I'm consciously being like, I'm not really feeling it, but I'm going to grab those and I'm going to eat them in the car, and it's going to be awesome. And I just it's like, so I'm conscious about the activity, and it kind of helps me to not feel bad about it. I don't feel bad at all about it, because I'm a grown ass man. I can do whatever I want. And so so I had Reese's peanut butter cups for dinner or for breakfast even. And it's like, awesome. Now I'm going to get back on track and have this bomb salad for like lunch. So it's just, there's no room for me to feel bad about it, because I consciously chose that thing. And I'm just skipping on throughout my day. And it's like, and again, because hey, tomorrow's another sunrise. I'm going to be awesome. Do it. Begin again, and I'll be awesome.
Yeah. So tomorrow I'm going to have pizza for breakfast.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, that is a very new thing for me to really give voice to my inner cheerleader. My inner critic is very developed, and so the pointing out the parts, the ways that I have not lived up to my potential is a loud voice. And just very recently, I've recognized the ability to add another voice or give volume to another voice. And so one of my mantras lately is, I'm kicking ass. I'm kicking ass. Now, kicking ass can have some stumbles. It doesn't mean I'm getting 100% every day, but throughout every day, there's things that I'm kicking ass on. And that pulls me into not spending too much energy into the stumbles, because there's so much more forward momentum by celebrating the victories.
Yes. I love the saying, where what we focus on expands, where our attention lies, our experience is amplified, right? Because if we keep focusing on stumbling, then we're going to stumble more, right? But if we keep focusing on, like, you're doing great, okay, keep showing up, I am showing up, I am doing great, these are the affirmations, right? Then it starts to grow, right? That inner confidence starts to grow. And I totally relate to what you shared around shifting from the inner critic to the inner cheerleader. I think that that's a really big one, to be able to start to create new inner dialogue that is encouraging, that is loving, that is supportive. It's, programmed into a lot of our minds that are from a very young age, that we're not good enough, or that we need to do better, or comparison, or whatever these limiting beliefs are. And it does take some habit to start to create those new thought patterns, right? So looking in the mirror and saying, you're doing great. You're doing great. Okay, I'm showing up in the best way that I can, right? I know personally for me, one of the best habits that I have cultivated over many years has been the inner thoughts and affirmations, really auto suggestion, essentially, really programming myself, because we get programmed from the outside all the time. And so how do we program our own self, right? So coming into those affirmations to start to get those being the repetitive thoughts that we're having, and then watching how different my life has become because I choose to use these affirmations, not to bypass, but to focus my mind, right? Because I'll share just one, is that I trained myself to start my day right away with affirmations. I wrote a bunch of statements down that really resonate with me, and put them next to my bed. And then I woke up, every time I wake up, I look over and see these statements that is like, life is good, life is great, today's a new day, I'm feeling, I'm happy to be alive, these simple things. And then after some time, I noticed I would wake up and I would just be like, not even need to open my eyes. And I would be like, life is good, life is great, I'm doing great, today's a new day, I'm feeling healthy, vibrant, clear, whatever it was, right? I didn't even need that paper anymore. Now I don't even have the paper next to my bed, and it's like programmed in there. Oh, sun is out. Oh, life is good, I am well, life is beautiful, everything's going, according to plan. I start to program my thoughts, instead of the old version of me would wake up and be like, oh man, how is today going to go? I'm not sure, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I have so much to do, monkey mind, monkey mind, monkey mind, right? And then it just transforms how I operate.
Yeah. The idea that we are going to be running a program, like I honestly believe that cannot be avoided. Like you've got habits, you are going to have some habits. Whether that they're good ones is something that is in your control. I don't know that whether or not we have habits is in our control. What kind of habits we have is very much in our control. So kind of accepting that idea, and that goes into a much deeper conversation about, free will and things like that. But I'm getting to that point in my life that I'm realizing, okay, I'm gonna have some sort of program I'm gonna be running, and I'm gonna be running some sort of program unconsciously. I'm gonna have some sort of habits. What kind of habits am I going to have? What kind of program am I going to run? And having that awareness again is where it starts. Helps us to kind of, dictate and author what sort of like life and experience we're going to have.
That's huge. I love that.
So, yeah. So yeah, any final thoughts anybody has before we wrap things up?
I got one. And something that I found to be very helpful is being very crisp with the decisions and the habits that you're going to make. And whenever possible, make it a daily thing at the same time. Because there's a huge difference between saying, I'm going to meditate every morning at 6 and then take a walk afterwards, versus I'm going to meditate and walk 4 days a week. Because if it's 4 days a week, every morning you wake up in a groggy state and go, is today going to be one of my, nah, I don't think today is going to be one of those days. But if you say, if it's this is what I do every day, then there's no brain loop, no decision making. It's just, that's what you do. That's what you do. That's what you do. Like it or not, that's what you do. Otherwise, you're like, oh no, I'm sore. I'm not feeling so good. No, I went to bed late last night, so I'm gonna sleep a little bit longer today. Like, no, every day, every day. And if it's not something that you do every day, then have it specifically. I do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday at this time. Like, we record Mondays, 10 o'clock a.m. And when we got off of that for whatever reason, because life happens, we're stumbling to get back on track, because it's really much easier to have a strict time thing, no decision making. We just do it. You just show up at that time and you do it. So I think giving yourself a crisp and write it in pen, this is what I'm going to do at these times, and deciding, yes, not I'm going in this direction, but I'm doing this exact thing, saves you from any future wasted brain loops and excuse making that you can make in the moment.
Consistency and conviction.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. Yes, that is what really supports the deep anchoring of habits into form, right? And our habits, like daily habits, become our life. It really, really does shape who we are and how we navigate the world, and to be able to shift old unhealthy habits, it takes commitment. So consistency, conviction, commitment, right? And these are the things that I feel like are the building blocks for new habits. And I feel like my closing spark here is the questions, right? So many of the questions that have been posed here on this call, right? Who do I need to be in order to become who I'm, here to be, right? Is there anything getting in the way of really me living my best self? What is my highest self's needs right now? What does my future self need today that I can serve my future self, right? Really being in that contemplation of those questions, I feel like then helps to fuel the actions that we take, right? I know that's what works for me. And so hopefully some of these little sparks for you guys out there are inspiring you.
Yeah. And that is, all of that you guys have shared is great. And I think the little addendum to all that is, the notion that, the commitment is a big word, conviction, an equally big word. So it's important to realize that we can take this one bite at a time. So some of us are, okay, Monday through Friday, bam, this is what I do. Monday would be good. Just Monday would be fine. And then maybe like, okay, I did that Monday, do Monday a couple weeks, a couple times, for a couple weeks. Okay. Now Monday, Wednesday, let's try that. See how that works. And you can even like kind of go back and forth. Okay, this week I'm doing Monday, Wednesday. Next week I'll go back to just Monday. And you can like build on top of that, and then eventually become that person who does this thing 5 days a week, who does this thing every day. So you don't have to do it all at once. You can build, like some of us have it in there. It's like, no, this is my new habit. This is what I'm like. There's some people that can stop smoking, bam, like that. And there's other people that like, how about I just cut down the number I'm doing? You can, whatever works for you. There's a way to make it work. And if you need to do it in bite-sized pieces, that's fine. You got this. You can make it happen. So whatever works for you.
Woo! We got this, people.
We got this.
Yeah.
We're kicking ass.
We're kicking ass.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love that. Maybe we should use that as our closing affirmation.
Oh, I vote for that.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
right.
We'll do a combination.
Yes.
Another one that I really love that I have a sticker of on my bottle from my friend Autumn, which is "We're doing great. We're doing great." Right. So, okay. So closing it up with an affirmation. If you like, you can close your eyes. You can, if you want, even put your arms way up in the air like a big V, right? A celebratory pose. We are kicking ass. I am kicking ass. We're doing great. We are doing great. We are kicking ass. Yes, life is working out. Yes, I am consistent. I am committed. I am compassionate. I am consistent. I am committed. I am compassionate. And we are kicking ass.
Yes.
Yay. Thank
Yes.
you, Betsy.
Thank you, Betsy.
Mhm.
Thank you both. Always a treat to share and grow and learn with you guys. I love you.
I love
Indeed.
you too. And closing it out for you guys, if you guys want to find us, would love to share a little more on how you can do that. So, Halcyon, you want to give a little insight into how people can find you?
Absolutely. All my goodies are at johnstin.com, JOHNSTYN, including a number of daily habits that you can join me in. Every morning at 9 a.m., I do a love morning broadcast that is involved with setting an intention of the day, setting a script or a plan where we kind of guide ourselves to be the person we want to be that day, set the habits, as well as a noon and 6 p.m. Pacific time gratitude circles. Those are a couple of my habits that you can join me in every day.
That's
Fantastic. Fantastic. So my main offering in the world these days is once again, NuWorldNutritionals.com. That's spelled NU, worldnutritionals.com. And we've got a couple different nutritional supplements that we offer, one of them being a microdose supplement that is designed to help alleviate symptoms of anxiety, depression, ADHD, PTSD. It's actually even helping with forms of dementia, Parkinson's, anything neurological. It's really working wonders for a lot of people, I'm happy to say. So helps with memory, learning, focus, things like that. So find us at newworldnutritionals.com. You can use the code SPARKED, ED, for a 10% off of all our products.
amazing. So good. That's a good habit to be implementing.
Indeed.
I also have a company called poweraffirmation.com that encourages healthy habits of mind, body, and spirit, especially using affirmations. I am also a holistic healing arts practitioner doing body work, energy work, and intuitive coaching virtually and also in person. And I love getting to share power affirmations, audio versions on Insight Timer. So you guys can find me on there and find a variety of affirmations to help infuse your mind with positivity and thoughts to empower you. You can also check out my website, poweraffirmation.com, and use that same code, SPARKED, for 10% off. And you can check out a little free gift in our show notes here.
Betsy's affirmations are a incredible tool for daily habits, I would add. And I would want to offer as well, I have a recording that I listen to every morning of myself giving my own affirmations and a blessing that I listen to in my part of my morning routine, that if you sign up for my mailing list, I'll send that out so I can share that with you. And that's also in the johnstin.com links.
Great.
Amazing.
Great.
Awesome.
And perhaps we can also put in the show notes a link to the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think that's been something that I know Betsy and I have gotten a lot out of as far as improving our habits and bringing in new ones. And it would be, I feel good recommending that book to our listeners.
Let's do that, and Joe Dispenza as well.
Yeah.
And thank you again, everyone, for sharing with us your reviews on Apple Podcasts, and also just really continuing to welcome our listeners to share sparks with us. If there's anything that you would like for us to be sharing on these podcasts, please send us a message. Any requests for topics? We love hearing from you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Please feel free to reach out.
All right. Stay sparked, people.
Stay sparked, people. We love you.